Because to be happy for a day is easy. To be happy for a week is difficult. But to be happy for life is a challenge. The real reason is, do we really know what makes us happy? We are hunting for happiness, searching for it, trying and vying for it. But do we really know what really makes us happy? What if God just descended right now on this podium and He announced that all of us have only 10 minutes to live? You say, Swami, aavo sankalp karo cha. Don't worry. I am saying, what if? What if God descended on this podium and He announced that all of us have 10 minutes to live? Swamiji, aap and hu sahit. And then He says that go and do one thing that makes you the happiest. Go. How many of us seriously would have a clue? I think majority would just sit here and say, let the time come. But there may be a few who would just want to buy. Will you buy a new car? Would you buy a new bike? Would you change the house you really want? Would you change the curtains? You know, somebody told me that if you want to change the world, change it before you get married. Because after marriage, you can't even change a TV channel. If you had 10 minutes, would you go down and settle an old score with somebody who has hurt you? Would you go and seek forgiveness from your parents? What would you seriously do in 10 minutes that would make you the most happiest? I think majority don't have a clue what really makes us happy. And that's why happiness, which is a very simple word, becomes more and more complex as we start thinking about it. Then we get all the experts. So many people advise, people like us give you katha and philosophy and everything. We always listen. When the sadhus say there's no happiness in the world, we would say yes. But internally you are saying no. And it's our experience and there's nothing wrong. I'm not trying to tell you it's your personal experience. There's a difference between an understanding, an imagination, a philosophy, and reality. We get so many experts, economists, sociologists, anthropologists, thinkers, social thinkers. They have come up and invented a new word. They are trying to reduce happiness into pure mathematics. And they have come up with this idea of the happiness index. I think most of you might have heard the happiness index. I'm not against it. Who am I to challenge anything that comes up on the global scenario? But then they say that obviously the happiness index, Bhutan is somewhere right at the top and India is somewhere right below the middle. So does that mean all of us want to migrate to Bhutan? See, reality is one thing, statistics are something else. Whenever we are told, and I ask people in this audience or outside, I said, how are you? How are you happy? He says, I'm average. And I really get worried about averages, Because if somebody tells you that on average this river is 4 feet deep, don't cross it. At the shores it's 4 inches, in the middle is 40 feet. Average बहुत dangerous बात है. In England we used to have a saying that if your head is in the oven and your feet are in the fridge, on average you're in a comfortable position. See, people have this કેવું ચાલે કે average સારું છે. But ultimately we have no clue of what happiness is. And that's why we have no clue of prayer. Because basically our biggest prayer in our heart is a prayer for happiness. Because we don't have a clue what happiness is, we can infer we have little clue what prayer is. And that's what we want to discuss and share this evening. Can we focus? Can we fluff out? Can we peel off the layers that hide the real meaning of both happiness and prayer? Similarly, prayer, it's like a birthright. It's the force that is common for all. There is only one energy which is there when you are born and which is there when you die, prayer. Nobody can restrict you. Everybody has a right. But you know what happens when prayers are born in your heart? They are very innocent. When they come to your lips, they become cosmetic. You have to arrange and say the right words in the right way. There's all this correctness, social correctness, political correctness, all this is there. So when prayers are born in your heart, they are innocent. When they come to your lips, they are cosmetic. And by the time they reach God, my God, they get complicated. I'll give you an example, wait, Mukesh Pai made it so easy, I'm going to make it really difficult. When they reach God, I sometimes wonder and worry what God would do. I'll give you a classic example. When India and Pakistan are playing cricket, it's almost like a war. Two teams are playing and both nations are praying. Billions of prayers go up. Who should God make win? God gets confused. There are billions of prayers. One saying, make India win, and the other says, make Pakistan win. That's not an issue here. I'm trying to say when your prayer for happiness brings unhappiness to somebody else, that prayer is slightly complicated. Now ask yourself privately in the corners of your mind that whether our prayers for our happiness, if they bring unhappiness to somebody else, should God answer them or not? Tell me. Then don't complain. Majority of our prayers would be bracketed in that way. And I just want to make sure that when such a thing happens, it gets so complicated that we can't find a real solution. I'll give you another classic example when our prayers sometimes are detrimental to the people around us. When we were in England, there was a humorous tale which was often quoted. And I want to upfront tell all of you, there is no racial slur intended. But I want to tell you, as we had heard and we enjoyed, that once there were three people, once a Scottish, a British, and an Irishman. They were all three friends. They went into the Middle East. And out of some difficulty or some thing went wrong, all three of them were banished to the desert. And when they were in the desert, they were struggling for food, water, and the heat literally melted them. They were on their last reserves, about to die. They started praying to God, God help us. God appeared in the middle of the desert and God said, yes, too cold. They said, yes, God. Obviously, the British said, it's my turn first. He explained to the Scottish and the poor Irish, okay? He said, my turn first. And God said, what do you want? He said, God, just grant me one prayer. God said, yes. He said, God, if you are really God, British way, right? Obviously, God is God. He's appeared from nowhere. He said, God, if you are really God, all I want is one cold beer in the corner pub of my street. Suit you. So he disappeared from the desert back to England. Corner pub of his street. The Scottish took a cue. He said, God, if you are really God, then I want one last dip in one of the lochs, the beautiful lakes of Scotland. Obviously, you can't bring a lake in the middle of the desert, so God said it'd be easier to transport this guy. So he disappeared. Then God turned to the Irishman. He said, what about you? He said, God, in this middle of the desert where there's nobody around, we were three friends. I suddenly feel so lonely. Can you please bring back my two friends? Most of our prayers are like this. For the sake of happiness of ourselves, we disrespect the happiness of others. That's why our prayers get complicated, because we are so focused on our personal happiness. You probably came here to think that Brahmavihar Swami will be giving us some ideas which will make us, I have come to give you ideas on being happier. But perhaps, as Mukesh Pai said, not the way that you think. If we believe so much on exclusive happiness that we've forgotten that happiness has to be inclusive. So prayer should be the basis of an inclusive way of life, inclusive happiness. That's why Yogiji Maharaj, Pramukh Swami Maharaj is Guru. He always said one thing and one thing alone all his life, even when he was about to sleep, when he was waking up, after puja, when something good happened, when something bad happened. He would always say, Bhagavan saunu bhalu kare.